Hey guys, welcome to math class. I kind of liked this setup yesterday, so I'm recording in my family room again. So, let's get right in. So, problem solving. This one, you guys may or may not be familiar with this concept, but in a lot of, at the public library, if you guys have ever checked out books at the public library, if you are late returning them, you have 2 weeks to use books. And if you are late, they charge you money for every day you're late. Mrs. McCollum, our librarian, doesn't charge for late books. So we're fortunate that way. It's just if you lose them or something happens to them, she does request that you replace the book. But if they're late, we don't have fines. So this problem is about a person named Edgar who was late returning his books to the library. On February 4th, he remembered that he had 2 books that had been due on January 28th. So there's a couple of things going on in this problem. First of all, you're going to have to remember how many days are in January and how many days are in February so that we can calculate how many days that they were late. The fine is 15 cents per book that it's late. And it says if he returns the book on February 4th, what will be the total fine? So hopefully you have your whiteboards and you've worked that. Speaking of that, I had a question. What happens if your marker has dried out? Just use paper and pencil. So you won't be able to use your whiteboards, but you can use paper and pencil and work along with me, and you can just carry on, okay? So on February 4th, he returns the books. They were due on January 28th. The late fee is 15 cents per book, and so we want to know what is our fine. Now, the plan for that could be anything, a number sentence, you could make a table, various things. The first thing that I'm going to do is I need to find out how many days that is. So he remembered it, they were due on the 28th. So if you turned them in on the 28th, you wouldn't be fined. So the 29th is going to be the day that they start counting. So the 29th, 30th, 31st of January. And then we're going to go into February, and let's say he is returning those books on February 4th. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 7 days. It's 7 days late. It's 15 cents per book. So to make that easier, we could say it's 30 cents for 2. So 30 cents a day. So the number sentence that we could come up with, the fine would be 7 times 30 cents equals the fine. Now, you could do this one of 2 ways. You could do your sentence 7 times 15 cents and get your fine for 1 book, and then you could multiply that by 2. Or you could go ahead and double the fine before you do your number sentence. Either way, right? There's always multiple ways to solve a problem. So however you did it is fine, as long as you accounted for both books, okay? All right, so if we calculate this, we can almost calculate it. Well, we can calculate in our head. What's 7 times 30? We know 7 times 3 is 21. And then we have this ending hangy outy, very mathematical term, hangy outy, 0. So $2.10 is his fine. And it's very logical, very reasonable that we got our answer. We calculated the 7 days. We doubled our fine because he had 2 books. We multiplied it and we got $2.10. Okay? All right, let's get into our lesson today. Our lesson today is about 2-step problems about a fraction of a group. So we did 2-step problems yesterday we are going to continue that same concept, but with a different type of problem. So you should be on page 603. Your problem solving was 602. So 603 is our first example for lesson 95. And the problem is, you can read along with me in example 1. You should have your books out. All right. There were 30 campers in the state park. 2/3 of them wore green jackets. How many campers wore green jackets? So what we want to know is, what is 2/3 of, how many campers are there? 30. There are 30 campers. 2/3 of them wore green jackets. What is 2/3 of 30? All right. So it's going to be 2 steps to solve this problem. The first thing that we're going to have to find out is the number of campers that are in each group. So we're going to have to put these campers into groups. So how many groups are we putting these campers into? This sentence tells us, is it 2? We're putting them into 2 groups? No, that's our numerator, and our numerator tells us how many of those we want. How many total groups do we need? Remember, our denominator tells us how many total groups we have. So, how many groups we have, you always look to the denominator. There are 3 groups that we need, that we have. Okay. So let's divide 30 divided by 3 is going to be 10. You could have probably done that in your head, hopefully so. All right, so we have 10 campers in each group. Now, we can draw a diagram to show that. Here's 30 campers, and if we have 3 groups of them, there will be 10 in each group, and that is 1/3 of the campers, 1/3 of the campers, 1/3 of the campers. And we know that because of our 3 in the denominator. We're dividing by 3s into thirds, okay? So if that is the case, we've done that. That's step 1. How much is in a group if we divide by 3? Now, the problem wants to know how many of the campers wore green jackets, and it said 2 of the thirds wore green jackets. So if we put 2 of these together, 1, 2, we get 20 campers. So what is 2/3 of 30? 20. Okay? All right. Now, could you tell me how many of the campers did not wear green jackets? It'll be what's left of the 30, because we have 1/3 left. So 10 of the campers did not wear green jackets. Okay. Example number 2. Guys, I know in the video it's hard because I can't see who's going, or who's going like this. Could you show me that again? Okay. Or I didn't get that yet. So the thing that you can do is stop the video, go back and look at the video again, or read it in your book. Maybe reading it and looking at your example in your book will make more sense to you, okay? Now this is, we have done these type examples before, so hopefully you're not just scratching your head. If doing those 2 things, reviewing the tape again or reading in your book, you know what to do. Call me. You know my number, call me, baby. I know, I'm not Carly Lloyd Jones. I know, Roshan. I know. You're rolling your eyes. Okay, example number 2. The force of gravity on Mars is about 2/5 the force of gravity on Earth. Now, you guys know that because remember when we did our mass versus weight lesson, you all weighed yourself and you found out what your weight is on Earth, and you found out that weight literally means the amount of gravity that you have on Earth is 2/5 that of Mars, and then calculated what it was on Mars. So 2/5 is our fraction we're going to use. That's the part of the group that we want, fraction of the group. A rock brought back to Earth from Mars weighs 50 pounds. So how much did it weigh on Mars? So if it weighed 50 pounds on Earth, what did it weigh on Mars? It's 2/5 of the weight. Now, some of you weighed 50 pounds. So let's figure this out. The first step that we have to do is we have to find out, look at our denominator. We have to divide 50 into 5 equal groups. And I think we know already what that is. It's 10. So I can draw my diagram again, and I can divide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 50. Let's imagine that those are all equal. So we've got 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10. So we've got 50. We have 10 in each group. The fraction of each of those would be 1/5 for each section that we have divided. Now, what we need to know is, of these, how many do we need? And the numerator tells us how many we need. We need 2 of these groups. So here is 1, 2, and that would be 20. So 2/5 of 50 is 20. That's the second part of our problem that we're working. Okay, now, why did the weight of the rock change when it was brought to Earth? Why does the rock weigh 50 pounds on Earth, but it only weighs 20 pounds on Mars? Do you remember we talked about gravity? The force of gravity is greater on Earth than it is on Mars. So that's why it weighs less. Is the mass of the rock less on Mars? Think about it. When we had astronauts get in their spaceship and they flew to Mars, was their mass, and it's the amount of matter, did their bodies, their weight was less because the force was less. Was their body less? Was their mass less? Were they little bitty men walking around on Mars? No, their mass stayed the same. Their weight, or the force of gravity on them, changed. And that's very confusing because a lot of people on Earth think weight and mass are the same thing, because we measure the amount of mass by the weight. And so that's how it's a little confusing. In science, you guys will get into that a lot, okay? So, you learned it in math though, right? Okay. Let's do example. There's no more examples. Let's do a lesson practice. So get you guys ready. Get your whiteboards out. Let's work this problem. I'm going to give you a problem to work. All right. We have, okay, we're going to have a math test next week. All right. Let's say there's 30 of you that I'm going to give a math test to. There's 24 in our class, and I'm going to make 6 of the 8th graders take it too. Okay. So 30 kids are going to take a test next week. 2/5 of the kids will study for 1 hour. Okay, so 2/5 of 30 will study for 1 hour. So how many kids are going to study for 1 hour? You guys figure that out. It's going to take you 2 steps. What's the first step that you're going to have to figure out? You're first going to have to divide 30 into 5 equal pieces. So do that. Okay, so we've got, if we do a diagram of that, I'm not too good at dividing into 5s. If we divide 30 into 5, 30 divided by 5 is 6. That would give us 6 students in each fifth. And how many do we need? 2. So how many students studied for 1 hour? 12 students. Don't forget your unit. Okay, a lot of you on your tests, you forgot your units. Come on, guys. You know to do that. All right, so I think that is our math lesson today. The assignment for tomorrow will be to work lesson 95 odd. All right, so happy mathing, and I will see you tomorrow.